So first time we met Vyacheslav. First time we met Vyacheslav in the end of June last year. And for the first time, after 4 or 5 presentations by Vyacheslav and his company ITRGOO and his employees, for the first time we'll actually hear what he does. For the first time, and the topic is MSP, Managed Service Provider. Thank you. Dr. Vyacheslav? Yes.
Professor Helmi.
Yes. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. I guess I'll go in English, since owing to the mixed audience. All right, the topic I've been asked to present today is what my company called ITRGOO actually does. This concept is known as Managed Service Provider. That concept is not actually new. It's something that's been going in industry for many, many years. But the term is finally started to gain traction as it sort of got involved to start penetrating the market on a medium and smaller levels, basically getting within reach of your average consumer. IBM used to provide the gold managed services probably 40 or so years ago, if not more, where they used to develop them mainframes, sell them to customers, and support them for the lifetime, which was a more or less mandatory thing, because mainframe is not something you could possibly manage yourself due to lack of knowledge, lack of components, and lack of time. And they were very good at what they did. But then, of course, the era of personal computing came about, and multiple companies, such as IBM, such as Microsoft, started popularizing computers. And they achieved 2 very interesting goals. First, they put computer within reach to practically everyone. Nowadays, people can just have it and use it, and it's famously used for comparison. You can pick up your smartphone and hold in your hand more computing power that was used in the entire moon landing operation. The second thing they did was actually a big disservice, in a sense that they popularized computers so much as simple devices, which people were initially afraid of, that people can manage themselves, which unfortunately is very far from ideal. Yes, it's true, people used to be scared of computers. Yes, it's true, people used to have specialists, and yes, it's true, specialists used to take advantage of clients charging enormous amounts of money. What those companies did, I'm not going to name them all, like Intel, AMD, you probably know those names anyway, Microsoft mostly, is that they basically set themselves on a mission to make IT and computers more accessible, more reachable for anyone, child and adult alike. And they've succeeded. That's definitely achieved. But in the process, they said they took away the fear. And along with the fear, they took away awareness. People started treating computers as they would treat any household appliance, as fridge or as your iron, which again is very, very far from the truth. And that is partially a reason why cybercrime nowadays is such a big and hot topic, and why billions and maybe tens of billions are lost every year on cybercriminal activities. Because the concept that is being exploited here is very simple, as all the civilization, it's ignorance. People just don't tend to bother to have the equipment maintained in a way that would allow them to do the things, go about their way, and at the same time make sure they do it in a safe and secure manner. They basically feel IT is one of those unprivileged specialties. They feel they can do it themselves. If you drive a car, you break down on the motorway, you may, if you have enough knowledge, try open the bonnet, check a few things, and maybe then call recovery when you realize you can't do it yourself. But when people have something wrong with the computer, they say, oh, of course I can do it. I'm just going to go on YouTube, watch a couple of videos, and now I'm an expert suddenly. And that gives you actually even worse situation than originally. Because instead of having something who knows and someone who doesn't know, you have a third category, someone who thinks they know, which is much worse, because they live under the false assurances of how they operate, and they end up with time wasted, money stolen, their houses remortgaged by unscrupulous neighbors, their bank accounts empty, and so on and so forth. So these two paradigms eventually go in a collision course, and they met. And that spun a whole business of IT industry and managed IT industry in assisting those who couldn't afford such services before and providing them with necessary tools and necessary services to allow them to do whatever they set on doing, be it business and pleasure, be it currency trading, be this, be that. A question? By the way, if you want to ask questions, by all means. If you feel it's pressing, then interrupt me. If not, then let's wait till the end. Up to you. So, what is the point of managed services? If you're a company, and if you're a big company, you can afford to have an IT department. That IT department needs to be staffed. You need to have adequate people to cover every single tool of trade your company uses. There have to be people who know the hardware that your company utilizes, that know the line of business software, that can provide adequate support for your internal users for all the technologies your company uses in the field. If you're a big company, it's not a problem. You can have such people. Problem, of course, here is inefficient use of resources. You might have an important line of business application which requires support a couple of days a month when you're allowed a scheduled upgrade and nothing else. But you have to hire such a specialist on a full-time basis. You have to pay annual leave, you have to pay sick leave, you have to deal with absences, and so on and so forth. You basically have to cover all eventualities that having your own staff provides. Sure, there are advantages, lots of those, if you can afford them, as having your own staff, deploying them as you see fit, and planning your time as you see fit. But in an ideal world, smaller businesses cannot usually afford a full complement of staff which is required to run such a thing. I mean, take any average small business that does internet shopping. You need to have secured workstations to safeguard customer financial and other personal data, especially after GDPR, with massive penalties. You need to have a secure web host. You need knowledge in websites. You need to be able to promote that website. You need to be able to cash in on that website, and so on and so forth. There are many things, many levels of expertise which people just don't have. Instead, they pay $1.99 to one-on-one, or someone similar thing, all done. Unfortunately, no, it's not. That's where companies such as ours come in. What managed services providers do? They get that expertise and they rent it to people in such situations, which precludes people from the need of having an IT department on their own, or they can cut it down. In a way that companies, smaller businesses, do not have to invest a lot of money in IT. They can buy a block of hours, and they can be guaranteed that within those hours, as per the agreement, in our business they're known as SLA, service level agreement. As per the service level agreement, the relevant services will be provided. And they do not have to think about sick leaves, annual leave, shortages of staff. It's none of their business, it doesn't concern them. They know they can pick up a phone and they'll have a member of a team helping them as per the service level agreement. Other issues become my headache as someone who runs the business, not the customer's one. And that's essentially what managed services provider does. It takes away the headache from, for instance, business owner, so that the said business owner can actually go about and run the business instead of concentrating on other things. Because as in every industry, there's a lot of compliance matters. You need to make sure, especially after GDPR and Data Protection Act 2018, you need to make sure the data is stored in a particular way. You need to make sure the data is processed in a particular way. You need to cover the whole chain. There is no point of having the top of the range, best, most secured website and web server in the world if you take data from there, dump it on your computer, and store customer credit cards on an encrypted form on your laptop. It doesn't matter. Chain is only as good as the weakest link. So, and this is what essentially MSP does. The above is a definition, but again, as is every business, it's very difficult to define this. It's basically a combined large-scale outsourcing, whereby you as a customer can locate an MSP that can fulfill your needs, maybe shop around, maybe find a few, make a few calls, set up a few meetings, and figure out the MSP that matches your needs. Because MSPs are also different, not all the same, just like people. MSPs usually specialize in certain technologies. Yes, it's true that if you call an MSP and ask a question, it's very rare to hear, no, we don't do it. Nobody wants to lose business, especially nowadays in this business climate, and nobody wants to allow a competitor to shove a foot through the door. You want to make sure you cover all your customers' needs. So good MSP, if presented with a call and a challenge they never faced, will schedule a meeting a couple of weeks in advance and learn the technology, what the customer requires, to make sure customers' needs are addressed. Definition being is it's a proactive management of IT asset or object by a third party, which is more or less correct. More or less correct, because sometimes you have hybrid deployments whereby, for instance, if you have a large, say, primary care trust or school, it's possible to run an MSP, but schools have a lot of needs which have to be addressed by boots on the ground. They're not complex needs, but they still have to be addressed on time, otherwise the whole education process suffers and collapses. So, the model we sometimes also employ is that school has somebody like an apprentice or some low-level staff right there, and we as an MSP address more difficult and complex issues in the back office, so to speak, and we send our specialists on site if and when required. It allows customer for a much, much bigger saving, because essentially you only pay for one person who doesn't need to know much. Sure enough, in IT as in every industry, you want to cost more, you want to be worth more, you have to learn. But some people just feel comfortable where they are, which allows for such hybrid models to function. That's the model is covered. The agreement is called SLA. That is a mandatory framework. In fact, when you sign an agreement with an MSP, it's probably not going to be called an agreement. It's going to be called service level agreement. Because it's not enough for MSP to cover. And it's not enough for you as a customer to expect MSP to just cover what you need. You want to know the time scales involved. Because computing can be a very relaxed and easy matter, or sometimes it can be something as a matter of emergency. If, for instance, your main database was hacked and you want to immediately limit the damage, no matter the cost, because you know the more you wait, the more the data is going to be sucked by hackers and published later, and the bigger fine you will be paying if nothing worse is going to happen. Which is why service level agreement usually mandates multiple levels of response. Of course, it costs differently. There are cost multipliers. If, for instance, you can have a specialist, on average, for somebody on a contract for, say, £250 a day, of course, such figures will rise and rise significantly if it's an emergency work, which woke you up at 3 a.m. at night and took you from a bed and said, run here, we need to fix this immediately. So MSP is there to cover needs, and MSP has to be a good MSP. Scalable and expandable, in a sense that if we need more to provide to customers, we will provide more. This is what I just mentioned before. The point is to address every single customer's need. Customer use Microsoft Office, somebody has to be on site to provide Microsoft Office support. Somebody uses Windows, Linux, Unix, QNX, doesn't matter, you have to provide support. Somebody uses some obscure line of business application written in COBOL 40 years ago, probably going to be difficult, but if you own the business, you still have to somehow adapt. And that is the whole point of MSP. MSP have to be at the forefront of technology. They have to be adaptable. They have to learn very quickly. As soon as you allow yourself, as such a business, to become stale and not move forward, you're essentially rolling backwards immediately. Because technologies come out left, right, and center, pretty much every day. Second point is what it's all about. The infamous term, TCO, total cost of ownership. If you need more about this, as Helmut mentioned, you have two grandmasters here who you can ask what this exactly means, but it's basically how much, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to invest in a particular technology or piece of hardware throughout its lifetime. And use of managed services provider allows you to significantly cut on that. Because managed service providers like us, we not only lend you expertise, we can arrange a hardware list oriented to you at a suitable price, and we can cover your short-term project needs. Something that doesn't preclude you, that precludes you, that does negate a need for you to have a major upfront investment at the start. Flexibility and scalability, I mentioned. Professional infrastructure management, that's also something I mentioned, it's done by experts. That one is also clear, and of course the very important thing on the previous slide is the term proactive. There are two types of IT companies, reactive and proactive. Reactive company is basically, let's wait until something's broken. It breaks, you get a phone call, you have to immediately drop what you do, you have to allocate a member of staff, you have to send such a member of staff on customer side. That member of staff needs to have necessary spare parts if it's a hardware breakdown. You need to make sure you keep stock or somehow can source it quickly. You need to fix it. Basically a complete mess. What should be done in this business is called proactive maintenance. That means customer networks are set up and then certain agents, scanning agents are deployed on them. Those agents regularly scan everything that goes on the network and alert you if something is wrong. Those alerts happen all the time. For instance, we got an alert about 2 weeks ago. One of our customers, a factory where uptime is crucial, was about to have a server fail. We had an early signs of failure of a hard drive in their industrial server. So we picked up a phone, we advised them on what's going to happen within the next 2 weeks, got an approval, bought necessary spare parts, dispatched one of our engineers who went and replaced everything with zero downtime for a customer. Everything done in a proactive manner. And that is something you want to be looking at an MSP. Somebody who does things proactively. You don't want somebody who has to scramble everything after it's broken. Don't. Do it on time, like a vehicle maintenance. Don't wait for the car to break down. Do your regular checkups. Do your regular service. It will last you much longer. This obviously is a wonderful piece of advertisement that everything I just said applies to us. I would have thought otherwise. And that we can do all of the things I've just mentioned. We are an MSP who's been on the market for over 10 years now. And we have members of staff who learn and learn on a daily basis. In fact, we try to structure our time in such a way that people on average spend 4 days a week working and 1 day a week learning. Because that's an important part, it's an important investment. We want to make sure that people are capable of doing their jobs. And training is a must. One thing we do not want to do is give customer an incompetent engineer. Because in this business, everything goes by reputation. You suffer reputational hit once, you will probably never recover. Because people trust you their utmost. Imagine you have somebody doing FX or Bitcoin trading. Yes, they may be, perhaps they have one computer, but that computer has to be properly secured. That person needs to be properly advised how to secure, how to use offline wallets, how to sign transactions, how to browse networks, how to do the trading, and so on and so forth. All the matters which are IT. Sure enough, the person can be more than competent to do this themselves, but it distracts such a person from the business. Instead of doing their business, going about their business, they have to divert their attention, learn regulation, ensure compliance, and do everything themselves. And yes, they might be perfectly capable of doing so, but they will earn less as a business because they spend the time servicing and not doing what they should be doing. And calculations actually show that in majority of cases, majority of case studies, that MSP is a more efficient means of running IT for your average business, regardless of size. Of course, exception being businesses, organizations that require in-house IT, be it Ministry of Defense, or somebody who absolutely have to have security no matter the cost. For them, the model of internal usage is more efficient, of course, but not efficient, more applicable, of course. But even they sometimes employ external consultants if they use certain technologies. This lists services, just a few of them, because a typical MSP which will offer you hundreds of services on any average technology or maybe even niche one, if you need it. But it's all about managing, proactive management. You have your average network. We will help you design it, we'll help you deploy it. If it's already there, we'll help you refurbish it. Have your service, have your workstation, we'll help you reimage and install them, put necessary endpoint protections on them, put necessary security measures, and put a small agent on every machine which gathers information and allows us to check hardware, software, all the statuses of every device and react accordingly. More than 90% of problems can be resolved remotely. An efficient and well-trained IT engineer with the right tools can address up to 1,000 endpoints. Just one person. If you really do it efficiently and if you have all the tools necessary. Yes, in the back office, in a remote manner. That of course tells us that we have such a wonderful team. Well, I'm glad the modesty is not there. And that if any particular needs arise, you should really be able to trust your MSP. Why? Because the point of MSP is not just a computer technician. It's not what's called an NEK guy. I'm sure a few people are familiar with the term NEK, but for those who are not, there used to be all software, like for instance DOS, it used to have a message, press any key to continue. And people sometimes ask, where's any key on the computer? And people of the lower capability who would come and press such a key, they used to be called any key people. So the point here is MSP is the exact opposite on the scale. MSP has to be a trusted advisor. Somebody who helps you drive your digital business forward. Not just digital, also compliance, data processing, whatever happens to touch on IT world. It's a very vast world nowadays. In such a way that when you choose MSP, you have to really sit down and think, do I trust that person to know everything about you? Because one thing that should be absolutely clear to everyone. Your IT provider will know pretty much everything about you. If you ever have an IT provider whom you would ask a direct question, if having a need, would you be able to take my network and all my data hostage? And the person will tell you no, you must fire the person immediately. Because there are only two possibilities here. A, that person is a liar. B, that person is an idiot. Neither of them you want to have as your service provider. So choose well, and let's have a bright IT future. Thank you, everyone. Any questions?
Daniel.
Speak up.
Sort of a bit of a strange question, but would it be possible that if you work together with the service to kind of educate your employees to solve problems that they have needs to understand an issue? So
I'm not sure. Is your question more about training? About what?
Sort of, but not exactly. Like, in terms of like, let's say an issue they sort of resolve it, they kind of go through with you as to
Who goes through with us?
the experts that went through fixing the issue.
The experts will probably be working for me if you're talking about my company.
Yeah.
So the question is what?
Where the experts would explain to you the service that they provide. So
For sure, if the client wants. You see, you have two types of clients here. You have type of clients who wants to know everything and those who want to know nothing. We literally can have phone calls within a space of 5 minutes. One would say, I haven't seen you for 3 days, what's going on? The other one would say, you're here, well, you've been here twice in the last month, what's going on? One wants you every time. They feel that if you do something, you do something. Otherwise, they don't know what they're paying for. The other one want to make sure that everything works and they don't want to see. So it's a mixture. If people ask us to explain, of course we can explain. It's something they pay for at the end of the day. So by all means, I hope I answered the question.
yeah.
Мы 4 месяца назад говорили о защите карты. Вот какая это защита? Даже Ивета не знала, кто это.
А это,
такое.
простите,
Что
это? Взорвется?
Не взорвется.
Хельмут, открой-ка ты на всякий случай.
Хельмут откроет. Она не защита.
Ну, мало ли.
Нет, это там она...
Огонь.
4 месяца назад ты нам
Рассказывал.
Да, вот это есть, это хорошее. Возможно,
Okay. Возможно. Okay, I'll answer this question in English. This is one of those new and hot devices which are meant to protect your cards. The point basically is, it's the most common way of stealing money. It's not yet very common, but it's very easy. You get a scanner, like a credit card machine, you stick it in your pocket, you put it in the maximum transaction, like 30 pounds, and you start bumping into people. May work, may not, but there is a lot of chances that people will have cards which are wireless capable in their pockets, and you'll start scanning 30 pounds, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30. Huh? Yes, RFID, indeed. And that's a common fraud which you should protect yourself from. For that, you can have those fancy devices. I personally, I'm going to show you what I use. I use this wallet by Samsonite, and what you're looking for on any device is RFID certification. That usually means it's, in technology it's called a Faraday cage, something that blocks emissions in or out. In practice it will probably be some sort of a metal mesh which is in a wallet which will block it. The easiest way to test it, I can't test it now, I don't have my credit card terminal on me, but the easiest way to test, you do? Huh? Oh good, bring it here then. One of two things will happen. Either you're going to get done for fraud, or we're going to certify that.
Kaspars is getting a big end.
Let's try it now. Каспер, мы тебе будем передачки носить. So, кто хочет тестировать, можем проверить. Who wants to test, by all means, please do. Anybody wants to test?
Come on. I won't have the ball.
One. Давай.
Ну ты сказал, что он самый крутой.
Я не сказал, что
Ты сказал, найди десятку, он на 3 каждую десятку. Молодец.
Just a moment. Software upgrade, ready.
Давай,
Okay, Kaspars is there with 3 devices. Or 3 separate.
Just bыстренько.
You're watching a wonderful thing, we're getting streamed live. Kasper's going to prison for stealing from credit cards.
Stealing legally.
We'll see who goes first.
Fraud?
Or Samsonite.
Or something like that, right? If
No.
it doesn't work, those devices, remember, do have limited lifespan. They have a very thin metal mesh inside. That metal mesh wears out as you use it. So eventually it breaks.
Yeah.
Maybe mine's broken
They
already.
change
Let's see.
wallet every year.
Every couple of years you should change it, yes.
Yeah.
And remember another thing. Nowadays it's not just credit cards. Your passports, biometrics password have also RFID chips. And that can be scanned. So you might want to have a wallet which actually covers your password. Or sometimes on Amazon you can get one of those protected envelopes in which you should store your password, just in case.
Просто не включал его, не говорю, сейчас апдейт. Просто пришел, он не дает подключиться, пока апдейта не будет.
Any further questions in the meantime? Huh?
How much is the case?
This one I don't remember. The last RFID wallet I bought a couple of months ago was £25 on Amazon.
The real test will be done in the evening.
This one I believe was more expensive, but I bought like 3 years ago, I don't remember.
So the real test will be done later on in the evening. We are all going to Bayswater underground station,
And what's gonna be
and
there?
we'll be running tests, real life tests.
I do believe there was some CS gas spread on Oxford Circus around today, so I'm not sure who is going to which station yet.
Ну, останется неделю. Сейчас думаю, апдейт.
Any more questions while we wait for the reader to finally
Yes.
update? Huh?
Any questions?
If you have questions?
Ты говорил про агентов, что устанавливаются на компьютере.
Да, говорил.
Есть же компании, где не позволяют это делать.
Нет
Как
таких
вот
компаний.
это подключение.
Нет таких компаний. Если есть компания, которая идет ставить агента, значит там уже свой IT-департамент присутствует. Зачем вам нужно МСП?
Не, они хотят снимать.
А?
Они хотят арендовать, но не разрешают ничего. Просто прямого подключения никаких не было.
Ну, там есть поговорка на эту тему, не на камеру же я буду говорить.
Сейчас он делает.
Надо заклеить.
Вместе с Хельмутом и Каспером. Они в соседних камерах будут сидеть.
Не, ну,
Он после этого, а это
Не, ну
он
как?
после вата.
Если не хотят устанавливать агентов, значит идет break and fix. Break and fix идет
Ставлю тут на зарядку.
план, где идет там 160-250 фунтов за час.
Дело
плюс
даже не в
выезд.
break and fix плане здесь, а в том, что это неэффективное использование ресурсов. Очень неэффективное.
Будет очень дорого при первом. Что, Каспар? Каспар снял.
Да у него еще
там,
не работает
там,
ничего.
Там и там.
Не переживайте.
Подбирается. Там,
У него
там
MSP
снял,
просто нет, у него ничего не
подбирается
работает.
кондик.
Да, не работает.
Невыносное
Он сам
время.
все ремонтирует.
Проверяется.
Каспар.
Kaspar's, people who do not know, Kaspar's has got 12 or 13 different certifications. He's a crazy scientist, we call him. He's got certifications from Samsung, Toshiba, all the way, and he's got IT support, shop service in Manchester. He works with local council and with few insurance companies. He lives and breathes technology and Tesla. And mining as well, by the way. You were busy, I will introduce you to Kaspar. Absolutely crazy. He doesn't know the word where to stop, when to stop. Oh, the line is still running, yes. Okay? No?
Не, ну он еще
Please do use Apple phones. They never run the updates at
Cash is the king.
Yeah, that's true. Ну почему он придумал в субботу обновляться? Ну,
Скажи, не кошерное такое.
Да, не
По
кошерное.
понятию.
Не по понятиям вообще. Не, главное, что если он решил обновиться, то ничего не делать. Тебе ничего не остается. Как ждать?
Кошерный девайс, да?
Да нет,
По шабатам обновляется.
вчера было нормально, принимал платежи, все, сейчас просто включу раз. Он тут же говорит,
это понимаешь, твой девайс совесть замучила. Ты сейчас будешь бабки воровать у людей.
Да ладно, слышь. А не, он удобно его в карман ставишь.
Я
он
вижу,
подходит.
дай ходит, да. Я только что это и описывал.
Не, у него передача не такой сильный.
Понимаешь, если вы с ним вдвоем подойдете, вам и так бабки отдадут. Вам даже карточки не
Нам и
нужны.
так отдают, мы когда в магазин
Я даже
заходим,
не сомневаюсь.
там сразу говорят, слышь, мы не хотим проблем, пожалуйста.
Я даже не сомневаюсь. Работает.
Open to phone. Please do not close the app.
Окей.
Successful, the card is ready. Yeah, okay.
Слава тебе, Господи. Заряжай. Пиши. Reason of transaction. Fraud.
Ну, возьмем.
It's a slightly different method of withdrawal. You see, both of them go and meet you in a dark wallet downstairs, and then you give it voluntarily. No.
I'm ready.
All right, testing. Anybody?
Go!
Свистни, нету.
Doesn't work.
А теперь сними Теперь вытащи. Теперь вытащи.
Alright, I'm testing without the wallet.
No?
Не берет. Карточка заблокирована. Не, он должен брать.
Better try на example, да?
Видишь, вторые 15 пунктов улетело, у меня просто телефон завис. Третий раз. Он же автоматически считает. Да не, на самом деле... Не берет. Почему не берет?
Не знаю.
Размагнитилась. У тебя там Фарадей клетка стоит, и размагнитилась.
Попробуем это, она тоже в бумажнике была. Это хоть беспроводная? Да.
А может это PayPal нету?
Пайпелом, Ира?
Контактлесса, по-моему, нет.
Ира, пайпелом. Ир, контактлесс.
Okay, thank you. So
Pagaid, tā ir otrs, izēta turpat ir zīmīt, izēta ir, jā.
has failed.
Give me a second, after.
For PayPal cards, you don't need protection. They just do not work. PayPal cards.
Тебе повезло.
Конечно, повезло. А? Я же говорю, Факир был пьяный, фокус не удался.
Сейчас он второй принесет.
У него их 3, по-моему. А где второй?
Okay, so any more questions? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Интересный всегда рассказывал.